All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today we are going to be finishing off the slave trade. Okay. So, the objective today, we're going to analyze what Europe, Africa, and quote unquote the New World got from their triangle trade. So, every continent basically got something. And you're going to see what that is. And we're going to examine the importance of King Afonso. A lot of you guys may not know who this is, and that's okay because again, this is kind of a person that's not really mentioned too much in the history books. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and get started with your warm up. So here is the diagram of the ships, how they were back then. So my question to you is this: why do you think they kept the slaves in that small little section right there when right below them, where those barrels are, there's plenty of space. There's plenty of room. Why do you think they didn't put them down there as opposed to that tiny little section right there? What do you think? Why would they put them there? All right, so take a minute. Oh, and before you pause the video or move on, or whatever, um, because a student said something in class, and I was like, okay, I don't think you truly understand why they got slaves. Because he was saying, oh, they put them there to kill them. Here's the thing, guys. It's like if you had your dog, let's say, had a bunch of puppies, let's say 12 puppies, you wouldn't put them in a tiny box, right? All just on top of one another inside that box, right? Because what might happen to those dogs that are at the bottom? They're gonna suffocate, right? They're gonna get trampled on, things like that. They'll probably die. And if you're planning on selling those dogs, is that a smart thing to do? No, right? They were planning to sell these slaves, so to kill them, they'd be losing money. So that's not something they want to do. It's every businessman, they would not want to lose money at all. So to get for him to say that was pretty ridiculous, you know. But I guess I think what he was trying to think of something like malicious. Um, when in fact it's like, no, they saw those guys as money, dollar bills. You know, they're gonna sell them. So yeah, okay. So think about it. Write your response, okay? Because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so the triangle trade occurred between Europe, Africa, and the New World. The New World consisted of places like Brazil, the Caribbean island, and North America. Okay, now Europe, they got things like whale oil, lumber, furs, rice, silk, indigo, tobacco, sugar, molasses, wood, gold, ivory, and spices. Um, I asked students in class if you guys knew what ivory was, and there were a couple students who got it right. And if you thought to yourself, well, maybe I think it's the tusks from the elephant, you'd be right. Okay, it is the tusk from elephant. Ivory is illegal now because of that. Okay, now the New World, they got things like slaves, manufactured goods. Now, what did that consist of? Basically, furniture, pots, pans, clocks, you know, beds, things like that, and other luxuries like perfume and you know clothing, things like that. You know, Africa, what did they get? Well, they got stuff like rum, iron, gunpowder, tools, guns, cloth, uh, and even beer. Yes, beer. Right. So each continent got something from the other ones. And if you really want to know like who got who from where, just look at this map. Pause the video and look at the map, and you'll see from the arrows who got what from what place. Okay. Now, here is a big misconception I hear quite a bit throughout my years of being in education, and that is that white people came off boats with like nets and things like that, and they saw like some person, African person, and they just like threw a net over them and like picked them up and put them on the boat and went away. No, I'm sorry, no, that's no. Okay, did some people do that, like get off a boat and try to find people? Yeah, yeah, sprinkle here and there, sure. But was that how all of them were caught? No. Okay. Many, I mean, we're talking a lot of the slaves taken from Africa to the New World were captured and sold by rival African tribes. These were guys who wanted to basically get rid of enemies, expand their empire, and some of that. So they basically said, well, you know what? Might as well make some money fighting our rivals, our enemies, from one kingdom to another. We'll just capture these people and sell them. So that's what they did. So one king in particular, King Afonso, he was the ruler of the kingdom of Congo. Really quick thing though, I found this out a couple years ago, but the original name of Congo is Congo. Yeah, and it's not even Congo with the C; it's Congo with the K. So it's Congo. Okay, but here's the thing: the King Afonso, he had an agreement with the ruler of Portugal. Right, he gathers slaves, right, and he sells them to Portugal, and Portugal would then send them off to the New World and make money off them. So basically, he would King Afonso would his kingdom would fight other kingdom, and they would capture those people and then sell them to the Portuguese. Well, the Portuguese then be like, okay, we got a new boat coming in, we need more slaves. So he's like, okay, we'll take care, we'll fight these rivals, beat them, captured all those people, all the civilians, women, children, men, sell them, right? The Portuguese would send another ship. Okay, we need more slaves. And they were like, well, we beat all our rivals. There's nobody else, around, to challenge us. So, how about the people in jail? Yeah, the bad people, people who do stupid things, and stuff like that. So they basically said, okay, here's those guys. So they sent them off. The Portuguese would send another ship. Wait, we need more slaves. And they're like, um, how about we send people we don't want in this country, like some undesirable people? So they rounded up those people and sent them off. The Portuguese sent another ship saying we need more slaves. Now King Afonso basically is realizing like, oh my God, we have nobody else left. You know, there's no more rivals. There's no more people who commit crimes. The undesirable people, people we don't want in our country, are gone. So I mean, what else is there? My grandma, you know. So he's kind of like, okay, you know what? He sends a letter to the king of Portugal and tells him, look, we can't send you any more people, any more slaves, because there's nobody else. We're depopulizing my kingdom already. I've sent people that, the bottom of the barrel, and I can't send any more people because these are my people, the people who worship me, people who, you know, accept me as their ruler and stuff. So I'm not going to send them. You need to stop this slave trade because there's nobody else. Well, the Portuguese king didn't listen. He was like, okay, whatever. In fact, he's like, I'm going to send two more ships, and I want those ships filled with slaves. So King Alfonso basically told him, no, no, I'm done. We got nobody else, so we're done. So he then tried to assassinate King Alfonso, but the assassin failed. And when King Alfonso basically told him, hey, what the heck was that about? Why are you trying to kill me for? The king told the King Alfonso, well, you were hiding gold from me. I know that's what you're doing. Yeah, that's why I tried to kill you. You were hiding gold from me. That was not the reason. Okay. So again, King Afonso sold other people, other African people, to the Portuguese. And then when it got to the point where he was like, I have nobody else left, he told the king of Portugal, you should stop the slave trade because we're depopulizing Africa. So you need to stop this. Okay, so he's the first one, the first king of Africa of a country in Africa to say no more slave trade. Okay. Now the slave trade was bad, and there were some places in Africa that basically did a total 180. Um, no place is a better example than the city state of Benin. Benin is in the western part of Africa, and before this whole slave trade happened, Benin was actually a very nice place. The people were absolutely brilliant, very educated, very into art and culture and things like that. Very much into their religion, you know, just overall pretty good people, you know. But here's the problem. Where they're situated at, it's perfect for countries like the Dutch, the French, the Portuguese, Spanish, all these guys to use it as like a port to bring in the slaves from inner part of Africa to the where the boats are and stuff like that. So it becomes there's like a bunch of slave towns all around, you know, in Benin. The population basically, just like King Afonso predicted, depopularized, and neighbors were looking at each other like, "I'm not gonna be, sent off on those boats," and it basically became like, "It's you versus me, and I'm not gonna lose." So neighbors fought neighbors, towns fought towns, and it became a total warfare throughout Benin. It got so bad that you know um, people didn't care about art and culture anymore. They lost faith in their gods. Um, it was no longer about, oh, how can we make our country better, society, and things like that. It was now about survival. You know, I kill you before you kill me. There was human sacrifices going on. You know, people would like, in a kind of a sense, put like heads on sticks and say like, this is our territory. Things like that. Things got really, really bad. So that in the 1800s, the British actually came by Benin and were like, okay, let's look around here, see how things are going. And it was corrupt, it was brutal place. The British were like, oh my God, what is happening here? This is total chaos, and people, so mistrusting, and they're looking over their shoulders. They're not actually living a life. It's just about survival. So they were scared and they left. And it took a good century or so for the people of Benin to realize, like, you know what? What are we doing this for? Why are we killing each other? Why are we doing all this stuff for? You know, we used to be a brilliant, you know, country. We used to be very smart, amazing people, great artists. We used to have faith and have religion and things like that. Look where we're at now. We're just killing each other for what? So it took a good 100 years or so for them to really start to change and start to try to progress back to where they were so many centuries ago. Now this is actually something I pulled up from a traveling guide thing, and it basically says the part in green, it says like, yeah, you can visit there, sure, but be careful still. um, you can't just walk down the streets at night. You got to be careful. The orange places, they basically say, don't go there unless you have to. Don't go there unless you know somebody there, and they can help you, take care of you, things like that. And lastly, the red start part is like they're like, no, don't even go near there. People get kidnapped. There's people being killed for whatever reason. So all the stuff you hear about, 8-year-old kids joining an army or being forced to join an army and kill their people and stuff like that. That's like in that red section. Okay, and like I said, it still goes on to this day. So they're progressing. They're getting better, but um, just yeah, it's all because of these slave towns and the slave trade. Now, here is my question to you. Do you think King Afonso should be recognized as a hero or a villain in the history books? And why? Okay. So remember, yes, he did sell his own countrymen, right? He even sold off his own people, the criminals and the undesirables and some of that. But at the end, he did tell the king of Portugal no more slave trade. He was the first to tell the king no. So, in your opinion, is that enough to, to wipe off the bad things he did, or you think no, 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 there's no way you can wipe off the bad. He's a villain, no matter how you slice it. Or do you see like, no, no, he tried to change, he did stop and things like that. So what do you think? How would you justify it? Okay. So once you answer this question, you're done with it, right? So um, hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. All right. So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.